What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1, and we're going to give you our Big Ten predictions here in this video. Did the SEC a couple days ago. Now we'll do the Big Ten, and someone asked about the college football playoff. Of course, we're going to give you playoff predictions as well, but we will go ahead and go through the Big 12 and the ACC before we do that. So let's jump right in. We're going to start at the bottom, work our way up to the top, and then, of course, I'll give you the Big Ten championship game prediction as well. So let's start here again at the bottom, and that's Purdue. I think Purdue finishes at the bottom of the Big Ten, a 2-10 overall record, 0-9 in the conference. This team is just not going to be very good. I mean, they were bad last year. Not really much reason to get excited this year if you're a Purdue fan. I don't see it. So I think this team struggles to win a game in the Big Ten. If you look through the schedule, potentially for a win, I mean, maybe they can find one somewhere. You look at a game against, I don't know, Rutgers at home. Maybe that's one they could win. But, I mean, it's just hard to find a win for Purdue. You look at some of the other teams near the bottom of the Big Ten, they don't play them. So there's just not really, again, many opportunities for wins if you're Purdue. I don't think they get one. I think they lose to Notre Dame in the non-conference as well. And they finish, again, here at the bottom. Then we've got Maryland finishing 4-8, 1-8 in the Big Ten. Team that I'm not very high on. I haven't really looked around to see what other projections were for Maryland, but when I look at this roster, I don't see this being a very good team. I think they, a few years ago they were pretty good, and it seems like they're just kind of falling off from there. And I'm just not expecting much from Maryland. I think they'll find a way to get a win somewhere in the Big Ten. They get Michigan State. They got UCLA on the schedule, also Rutgers. Problem is all three of those games are on the road, so it could be tough even for a Maryland team to get a win. Maybe they go 0-9 in the Big Ten. I could see that happening. So I think these two teams finish at the bottom along with Michigan State. I think Michigan State is a team that's not going to be very good this year. Just don't really think they did enough in the portal to get better. It's just, I think this is going to be one of your bottom teams in the Big Ten. I think they got a great coach. I think they will eventually get there, but I don't think it's going to be this year. In fact, I think this team might be a little bit worse this year. So I've got them at 4-8, 1-8 in the conference. Again, they find a win somewhere in there. I don't think they go winless in the Big Ten, but I am not very high on Michigan State this year. Next up, we've got Rutgers. Rutgers finishes 5-7 in my predictions, 2-7 in the Big Ten. Going to be a decent team, really. I mean, we know the defense should be pretty solid. They've actually got a decent receiver tight end room. Ethan Kaliak-Manis, I don't know that he's going to be a game changer for them at quarterback. He's been around for a while, but he's never really shown me that he can be, a top-level quarterback in this conference. I think, you look at Purdue, you look at Maryland, I think there's a couple of games they can get there. But, I mean, if you look at the rest of their Big Ten games, Iowa, at Minnesota, at Washington, Oregon, at Illinois, at Ohio State, Penn State, again, it is very tough to find more than a couple of wins there. So that's why I've got them just 2-7 in the Big Ten. And then also at 5-7, but 3-6 in the Big Ten, UCLA. So I think this team gets a little bit better this year, but the schedule, it's tough. Again, for these teams at the bottom of the Big Ten, it's just tough to find wins because you've got a lot of good teams in this conference. I could see them beating Michigan State and Maryland, maybe pulling off an upset against Nebraska. In fact, I did that. So we did do predictions for like maybe 10 of the top teams in the Big Ten. If you want to go back and watch those, I probably didn't even get to that many, but more in-depth predictions for some of the top teams where we went game by game and all that. And I did pick that as a potential upset. UCLA at home against Nebraska. So I do think they win some games. You've got Utah and UNLV in the non-conference. I don't think they win both of those, but maybe they split and get one. But yeah, I think it's going to be tough for UCLA to get to a bowl game. They got Penn State, Indiana, Ohio State, Washington, USC on the schedule. And again, I'm giving them that win over Nebraska. So I think 5-7 is probably where they wind up. And then also at 5-7, I've got Iowa at 5-7, 3-6 in the Big Ten. I know this is going to probably make some people unhappy, surprise some people, but I'm just not high on this team. I like the addition of Mark Gronowski at quarterback. I think he'll do pretty well for them. In fact, I think their offense could be better this year. It's the defense. That's where I'm concerned about this team. I just don't see the players that they've had in the past to have a really good defense. I think they'll be okay, but it's their schedule as well. It is a brutal schedule. I don't think Iowa's going to be a bad team. I think they will be better than plenty of teams that make it to a bowl game. But when you go through the schedule, it's just hard to find wins. You've got Iowa State, the non-conference, on the road. I think that's a loss. You got Indiana. You got at Wisconsin, Penn State, Oregon, at USC, at Nebraska. I got them losing all those games, and I've even got them beating Minnesota, a team that they may not beat. So it's tough for me to put Iowa much higher than 5-7. I mean, unless the defense kind of is if they're better there than I'm expecting, and they play a typical Iowa type defense, if they can play up to that level, I think with the additions on offense, they could definitely do better than that. But when I look at this roster again, I don't see those big time players on defense. I think they're going to struggle a little bit. I got them at 5-7. Wisconsin, I've got at 6-6, 4-5 in the conference. Their schedule's brutal. It's arguably the toughest schedule in all of college football. I mean, it is really, really tough. But I think this team is actually going to be pretty good, especially on defense. I think this is going to be a very underrated defense. I think they'll be able to pull off a couple of nice wins. I've got them with wins over Iowa, Washington, and Illinois. All those games at home. Also have them beating Maryland, but then losing to Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana, and Minnesota. All of those games on the road except for Ohio State. And then, of course, I got them losing to Bama. But, again, I think the defense gives them enough to get to a bowl game. I think with a more favorable schedule, Wisconsin could be like an 8-4, 9-3 type team this year. I actually think the team is going to be that good. But that schedule is it's brutal. It is just brutal. Wisconsin and Iowa, both teams that will be better than their record at the end of the season. Next, we've got Illinois. All right, this one's going to surprise some people, especially when I think my way too early top 25, I think I had Illinois like in the top 10. I was really high on this team coming off of last season. But then when you really dissect the team, you look at the roster, you look at the line of scrimmage, you look at some of the games last year where they were lucky to win against bad, or I wouldn't say lucky to win, but where they didn't win convincingly against pretty bad teams. It's just, I think last year this team was overrated a little bit. It's a team that I've had a very hard time predicting. So if you're an Illinois fan, be happy that I've got your team at 6-6, because it seems like they always do opposite of what I expect. When I thought they were going to be good a couple of years ago, they were bad. Thought they were going to be bad last year, they turned out to be really good. So it's a team that's just been tough for me to predict. Luke Altmaier coming back at quarterback, I think that's a big reason why a lot of people are high on this team and the way they finished. Go back to that bowl game. But again, when you really look at the roster, they don't have a lot of weapons at wide receiver. Defense, I think, has some question marks, especially on the defensive line. And they've got a pretty tough schedule. I mean, it's not the toughest, but it's one of those it's like a tricky schedule when you look at these games. Like Duke is going to be, I think, a pretty solid team. They have to play them on the road. Indiana's on the road. You got Ohio State. You got Washington. You got to go out west for that game. You got Wisconsin on the road. You got Northwestern, who is one of my surprise teams. Also, USC is on that schedule. So I think the schedule is tougher than people realize. And I think, again, Illinois, they struggled to get to a bowl game this year. I do think they get to 6-6, but I think this is going to be one of the more disappointing teams when all is said and done. And then I got Minnesota at 7-5, 4-5 in the conference. Should be a solid team. Not a lot of experience at quarterback. That's why I was a little hesitant to go higher on them. But overall roster, pretty good. Got a great running back coming back this year. Schedule it's not horrible, especially the non-conference. They have Buffalo, Northwestern State, and then they play Cal. So I think they can find wins against teams like Purdue, Rutgers. They get Wisconsin at home. Also Nebraska's at home. Maybe they beat Iowa or Northwestern on the road. I think Minnesota has another typical Minnesota season, 7-5, which is where they usually wind up. And so, yeah, I see that happening again this year. Next, we got Northwestern. So this is maybe the biggest surprise team in all of college football for me, at least compared to where they're expected to finish. I think this is going to be a good team, and maybe I'm crazy because it seems like nobody else is buying into Northwestern. But I look at Preston Stone coming in at quarterback, played pretty well at SMU. Obviously, Kevin Jennings wound up getting that starting job last year, especially what he can do with his legs and a big arm and all that. But Preston Stone had some really quality starts there the year before, and you got a great 1-2 punch at running back, really solid on the line of scrimmage, offensive line and defensive line, full of veterans, and the defense overall full of a bunch of experience coming back. So it's not going to be the most talented team, but a very experienced team. I think they surprised some people. I've got Northwestern again at 8-4. If we had the old Big Ten and we had divisions, I think this team might actually would be in the Big Ten championship. That's how high I am on this team. Again, I might be way off here. I'm trying to be, last year I thought Indiana and Arizona State would have surprise seasons, but I was very conservative. So I'm trying to be a little bit more aggressive in my predictions this year and trying to find those surprise teams. I think Northwestern is one of those teams. 8-4 would obviously be a great year for them. And then we've got USC also at 8-4, but 6-3 in the conference because I have them losing to Notre Dame. This team's going to be solid on defense. They've got a more favorable schedule than what they've had or what they had last year. I'm not sold on Jaden Mayave at quarterback. I think he'll be okay. Yeah, offensively, I don't think this is going to be one of those typical Lincoln Riley offenses, but they have made some strides on defense, and that's where the difference is with this USC team. We saw it last year, and I think they win some of those close games this year and have a pretty solid season at 8-4. And then we go to Nebraska at 9-3. Again, I did a video on them if you want to see more in-depth predictions, but I've got them at 9-3, 6-3. Not quite a playoff team, but I think they are more than likely going to finish in the top 25. Now we'll go to the top teams in the Big Ten. I've got Washington at 9-3, 6-3 in the conference. Another potential surprise team, a team that possibly could make the college football playoff. I was very close to putting them at 10-2. I mean, I was back and forth on the Wisconsin game. That's the one I think they maybe trip up there and lose that game. I have them beating Oregon, beating Illinois. They've got an easy non-conference schedule. I think Ohio State and Michigan will be tough games for them. But Washington, I'm telling you, if there's going to be a surprise team out of the Big Ten that makes the college football playoff, I think that team is Washington. Watch out for this team. Jed Fish, we saw what he did at Arizona. I think he has a chance to have a really good team this year at Washington. I've got Michigan at 9-3 overall, but 7-2 in the Big Ten. So they do finish ahead of Washington in the standings. This is going to be a solid team, but it's going to be all about Bryce Underwood. What can he do at quarterback as a true freshman? The defense will be solid. The run game should be pretty good. I mean, it's just, do they get enough out of the passing game to really become, a playoff contender this year? That's going to be the big question mark. I don't think they beat Oklahoma, but I do think they have a very solid year. I've got them beating Ohio State, and I've got them right there at 9-3. And I don't know that I can't remember now if I even did a video. I think I did do a video for Michigan, but yeah, 9-3 is where I've got them. I've got Indiana. All right, 10-2, 7-2 in the conference. I think they are, again, better than people are giving them credit for. I think this was a good team last year. Maybe not an elite team, but they were very good. They've got a great coach. He's proven that. They've added some nice pieces in the transfer portal, and they've got a schedule that's fair. It's pretty favorable. I mean, you got Oregon and Penn State on the road. They're not going to win those games, in my opinion, but they're going to be favored pretty much in every other game. I think they beat Illinois. I think they go on the road and they beat Iowa. That's the game. If they don't beat Iowa, or they could lose to Iowa, that wouldn't surprise me, and they finish 9-3. But that's the game. If they beat Iowa, I think they're 10-2. If they lose, I think they're 9-3. But I am very high on the Hoosiers. I think they're right back in that playoff conversation. I don't know that 10-2 gets them in, though, and we'll talk about that more when we do our playoff predictions, because you're going to have some 9-3 teams in the SEC that have much better resumes. Indiana would not have a signature win based on my prediction. So that's going to be something we'll have to look at. I've got Oregon at 10-2, 7-2 in the conference. Their schedule sets up pretty well for them. I think they're able to get back to the college football playoff. They're obviously one of the more talented teams in the country. Again, did a full video on these top teams. We got Ohio State ahead of them at 10-2, 7-2 in the conference. I got them losing to Texas, losing to Michigan, and winning all the games in the middle. But the number one team for me is going to be Penn State. I got them 11-1, losing that one game to Ohio State. That's the only loss I've got for them. So they will finish number one in the Big Ten. And then you have to see, again, I did videos, so I talked about these teams a lot more. But yeah, I just think Penn State's the most complete team in the Big Ten with all the experience that they've got coming back and just the talent on this roster. I think they're able to beat everyone except Ohio State. But yeah, when we go to the tiebreaker here, Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana, Michigan, if I'm understanding the way this works, these teams didn't all play each other. So you can't really go by common opponents because they played so many different teams. So it comes down to their record against the top teams in the standings. Ohio State beat Penn State, so I think that's what is going to give them the edge in the tiebreaker. And that is why we will see Ohio State and Penn State in the Big Ten Championship. But first, let's look at my predictions. From the last 3 years, I'd say we've done a pretty good job. Last year, Ohio State over Oregon, it didn't work out that way. in the conference championship, but Ohio State did prove they were the best team. We saw that in the playoffs. So, I missed the prediction, but I think I still, in a way, got it right in terms of the top two teams. I had Michigan over Wisconsin the year before. That was actually Michigan over Iowa, so I did get Michigan right, but we missed the team out of the Big Ten West. And then it was the opposite in 2022. I had Ohio State over Purdue. I did get Purdue correct, but it was Michigan over Purdue in 2022. So that's how I've done on my predictions the last 3 years in the Big Ten. Now to my prediction for this year. So yeah, I'm going Penn State, Ohio State. I did have Ohio State winning in the regular season. I think at home, just Penn State just can't seem to beat Ohio State, or it hasn't happened very much in a long time. But I do think it happens here. Neutral site, big game. I think revenge for Penn State. They come out super motivated. They finally beat Ohio State. Penn State is your Big Ten champions. That's how I see it playing out. I do think this is clearly the best team in the Big Ten. Will it work out that way because of the schedules and who winds up playing in this game? I don't know, but I do think this is the best team. They're the safest pick, and they are my pick. So that's who I'm going with to win the Big Ten. Would love to get your predictions on the Big Ten, all the way through. Give me your standings, give me your champ down in the comments below, and let me know what you thought about my predictions, and we'll see you in the next video.